Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanishalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome to all the devotees for this exclusive question answer session. For the next 1 hour, I shall try to answer as many questions as possible. Kindly post your questions on live chat and I will answer them one by one. I'm waiting for questions. Okay, here's the first question for today. On what basis the material modes of nature influence the living entity? This is clearly explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Specifically, there's a chapter, the 14th chapter, which is entitled The Three Modes of Material Nature. Then the title of the chapter itself is The Three Modes of Material Nature. Now here, Prabhupada uses the word modes for explaining what is called as guna. Guna means quality, in a simple way to say what is guna. But Prabhupada specifically says this is actually the three modes. Modes means the ways in which material nature influences the spirit soul, the living entity in this material world. So in the 14th chapter, Krishna tells Arjuna that all living entities are taking birth in this material nature by the process of creation initiated by the Supreme Lord as Mahavishnu. And Krishna also says that he is the seed-giving father for every living entity. Because Krishna only, in his form as Mahavishnu, impregnates material nature with the living entities, the spirit souls, who are lying in a dormant condition before creation. So, as soon as they are injected, they come out with different material bodies and they're placed in different planets, in different bodies. And in this 14th chapter, Krishna explains, material nature consists of three gunas. Consists of three gunas, of three modes. They are given three names in Sanskrit: Sattva-guna, Rajo-guna, and Tamo-guna. And Srila Prabhupada translates that very accurately as Sattva-guna as the mode of goodness, and Rajo-guna as the mode of passion, and Tamo-guna as the mode of ignorance. Now, Srila Prabhupada explains how to understand this particular difficult subject. It's a difficult subject, understanding what is this gunas or material modes of nature. Material nature is an energy. Energy means there is some force. So that force is what is acting on the consciousness of every living entity in this material world who has got a material body. Just like this dress we are wearing, it is merely covering our body. But you can also say it's not just a covering, depending on what material your dress is made of. In summer, if it is very thick woolen garment, it will be uncomfortable for you. It will be very, very hot. It will be uncomfortable. Now, in winter, the same covering need not be just one thin covering, because to protect you from a cold, you require some thick woolen garments. So you can say, in a sense, even though the dress is primarily meant for just covering our body, it also depends on the material of the dress or the type of dress, whether it is protecting you from cold or it is keeping you comfortable in a warm climate or a hot climate by not, completely suffocating you. Similarly, the modes of material nature are basically interacting to produce different changes external to us. But it also influences the consciousness in three ways. And that is exactly what is called as the gunas of the three modes of material nature. And what is the basis, if you ask the question, that we become influenced? The three gunas are acting in three ways. That's the way it is made. That's the way it is programmed, you may say. Material nature works impartially. So, depending on the type of body I have, these gunas will influence me in different combinations. The gunas influence the consciousness, means the gunas influence the external body, the gunas influence the internal mind, the gunas influence the mode of living, eating, sleeping, working, thinking, understanding. It's a very, very, very big influence to consider for especially the human beings who have got developed consciousness and have got a ability of reasoning, ability to use their intelligence for something more than just maintaining this body. So the three gunas, subject matter is very, very, very important, and it is a very, very instructive also to study this in the Bhagavad Gita and later on study it in the Bhagavatam. So the gunas are basically interacting to produce changes in our own body and also in the external world. Just like any material object like a table or a building, you see, with the effect of the gunas, these building materials or the material with which this table is made, it is deteriorating with time. So that is the effect of the gunas on the material objects. Even this body also deteriorates. As much as any other material dead object also, it deteriorates. It loses strength. So that is influence as far as the material five basic Panchabhuta is concerned, whether it's our external gross body or the dead objects, material objects like table and chair and building and floor and everything, all these are deteriorating. They're losing strength. And the influence of the gunas on the mind, that is even more subtle. It's not, mind is no question of deterioration, because mind is a subtle thing. So there's no physical strength that comes down of the mind. Mind is subtle. So the influence of the gunas on the mind is something else. How the gunas influence our understanding, how the gunas influence our likes and dislikes, etc. So that is a more complex phenomena of understanding the gunas influence on our mind. So all these are very nicely explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Basic explanation is given. And Prabhupada has written very elaborate purports to help us understand the verses themselves, which Krishna describes. And most importantly, the spiritual platform or the spiritual understanding is possible for those who rise above these three gunas and come to the transcendental platform. Krishna is situated beyond the gunas, beyond the material modes. And we as spirit soul, we belong to that spiritual platform or spiritual atmosphere or spiritual existence. We don't belong to this material world as spirit soul. But we are here because of a desire to enjoy materially. We are here because we have a desire to lord over material nature. And consequently, we got a material body and we got a material mind with which we are working. And as far as spirit soul is concerned, we are spirit, each one of us, but we are living under the influence of these gunas in a material existence, in which constantly the gunas are interacting and producing so many changes, external to us and even in our body and mind. So many changes are happening. So this you have to study carefully, and then you may, after studying, you may ask some more specific questions if you have any on understanding the different explanations about these modes. Now the next question, how to study Srimad Bhagavatam from basic, scrutinizingly. Srimad Bhagavatam is the postgraduate study of the Bhagavad Gita. That means Bhagavatam is a more advanced scripture than the Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study of the Bhagavatam. So you first study Bhagavad Gita before you study Bhagavatam. So studying Bhagavad Gita, you come to understand the basics of Krishna conscious philosophy, because Prabhupada has given elaborate purports. Every verse in the Bhagavad Gita is given the word for meaning, is given the translation, and is given the purport. And he is also given discourses on many of the verses. So all this will help you to study Bhagavad Gita very nicely. Once you study Bhagavad Gita, then you attempt to study Bhagavatam. Now, Bhagavatam also, you have to study from the beginning, because Bhagavatam is a vast scripture, 18,000 verses. There are 12 cantos. Each canto has got chapters. Each chapter has got verses. So there's a lot of material, Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam is also translated and purports given by Srila Prabhupada. You start with first canto, first chapter. Now that first canto, the beginning itself, the first 3 verses are a little complex. But anyway, don't be afraid of trying to read and trying to understand. But with the background of Bhagavad Gita study, it can easily understand and appreciate what is described in the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is more detailed because it contains questions asked by Parikshit Maharaj to Shukadeva Goswami for 7 continuous days, and these are fundamental questions regarding the duties of the human being, particularly at the time of death, and in general at all different times and different situations, circumstances. So it begins with such a fundamental question by Parikshit, and it goes on to explain the basic questions are answered by Shukadeva Goswami, but he also elicits more questions from Parikshit based on whatever little he describes in the beginning, and Parikshit asks a whole lot of questions. And those questions are comprehensive. What is this world? What are the different kinds of living entities? What is this? Who is God? What is spiritual world? What is the fundamental understanding of this material existence itself? Like that, so many questions Parikshit asks. So those questions will help you appreciate that the answers will be very, very comprehensive explanation of the fundamental reality about this world, about our existence, who we are, what is the purpose of life, and why do we have to suffer, what is the solution for all problems, how to get rid of all suffering, etc., etc., etc. And Bhagavatam particularly contains the lives of great devotees and the lives of some demons and lives of different personalities in different situations. Very nicely explained from the perspective of understanding the absolute truth, the ultimate reality. So you go through systematically, little by little. You can't read too much and quickly try to understand everything. No, you have to go little by little, step by step. First canto, first chapter, first verse, second verse, third verse. And even in the verse also, the translation is there, but you have to study the purport. And purports sometimes are very elaborately written. Sometimes the purports are very short. So, and Prabhupada has given discourses on Bhagavatam also. Not all the verses, some selected verses. And you can go through, you can hear the discourses. And then there are so many other books which have been published by ISKCON regarding Prabhupada's explanation of the Srimad Bhagavatam, like teachings of Queen Kunti, teachings of Lord Kapila, a second chance, and laws of nature. So many such books are there which give additional understanding of the Bhagavatam apart from the Bhagavatam scripture book itself. So you study them, all of them, little by little by little, and that way you can gradually. And if you have any questions, you're always welcome to ask them specific questions from specific portions or specific parts. Next question: how to increase taste in hearing Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam? Increasing the taste involves getting more involved in hearing. See, you should appreciate that hearing these things should not be a casual hearing. Just like somebody likes to hear a song, while they're working, or even otherwise for entertainment. They just, tune in or just go to the particular website or particular recording or whatever, and they hear. Okay. But this is not just hearing like that. It's not a casual hearing. So this hearing means you have to give your full attention. You have to stop other activities. Though sometimes you may hear even while doing some routine work, because the routine work, just like somebody is engaged in cleaning some routine cleaning of some table and some dusting some thing. You can put on your earphones and hear also. It's not wrong, but then best is hearing with full attention, stopping all other activities. That way you will be better able to appreciate what is being spoken or what is being described. And as you get more involved in hearing and studying, the attraction or the appreciation of Bhagavatam increases more and more. It is so nice. It is so systematically describing more details than the Bhagavatam is describing more details than Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is describing the basics, very fundamental things, because Arjuna's questions are very, very important in Krishna speaking the Bhagavad Gita. Basically, Krishna is answering Arjuna's questions, but Arjuna's questions are very, very fundamental questions in understanding the truth or the reality. So you involve yourself in hearing, reading, studying, and the more you actually get involved in this hearing, the more the attraction and the taste will develop. And your appreciation will increase. You will understand better the same thing as you go on hearing more and more. Also, along with this practice of hearing or reading and studying Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, you should also chant Hare Krishna very nicely. So chanting helps. Chanting helps improve your appreciation, increase your involvement in hearing, your attention, and also help you to quickly develop the taste for hearing the subject matter. Next question, what is Bhakti Yoga? How is it superior to other types of yogas? Bhakti Yoga is the yoga of devotion to Krishna. Devotion means one is completely dedicated for serving Krishna according to the directions in the scriptures. This service is rendered out of love. Bhakti means service rendered to Krishna out of love. Now, this love is something that is the fundamental nature of our relationship with Krishna. It's a loving relationship in each one of us and Krishna. So all this is explained in the Bhagavad Gita and later on the Bhagavatam also. So Bhagavad Gita describes 4 types of yogas. Karma Yoga, the yoga of action. Jnana Yoga, the yoga of knowledge. And Ashtanga Yoga, the yoga of meditation. And Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion. So these 4 yoga systems are described in the Bhagavad Gita. Right in the beginning, 2nd chapter itself, contents of the Gita summarized. All these 4 yoga systems are briefly described. And then the details are described in the later chapters. Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, or Ashtanga Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. So you study these or read this and you understand the basics. How Bhakti Yoga is superior to other type of yogas? Because Bhakti Yoga is the most feasible, practical, and effective yoga system that can be followed by anybody, especially in this Kali Yuga. Not only in Kali Yuga, actually in any yuga, Bhakti Yoga is more feasible and more practical. But in Kali Yuga, the difficulty is the other yoga systems are almost impossible due to several reasons. So Bhakti Yoga is only practical, feasible, and effective yoga system in Kali Yuga. Therefore, everybody should practice only Bhakti Yoga if they're serious about yoga practice for achieving self-realization, for making spiritual progress. Bhakti Yoga is the only yoga system that works in Kali Yuga. There may be some yogis in Himalayas who are sitting and practicing Ashtanga Yoga, or there may be somebody studying in a spiritual organization the scriptures and trying to practice Jnana Yoga. There may be, but those are very rare exceptions, and even they will take a long time for self-realization through the practice of the Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga or Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is basically performing pious activities for gradually elevating oneself to Brahmaloka. So it's very, very, very slow and very, very difficult practice, because pious activities had to be performed with austerities, vrata, then giving dana, then tapa, restraining one's senses and restraining one's all the activities. And Karma Yoga is very, very difficult in this Kali Yuga. So is Jnana Yoga, very difficult. Philosophy, philosophical understanding, scriptural understanding of the spirit as opposed to matter, and matter itself, understanding matter as consisting of 5 gross elements and 3 subtle elements, is very, very complex. So don't endeavor this to practice Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga consists of very difficult process of yama, niyama. There are so many do's and don'ts, regulating the eating, regulating the sleeping to an extreme degree. In the Bhagavatam, you can study how in the previous yugas, different persons practiced Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. You can read in the Bhagavatam. The examples are given. Briefly, Prabhupada gives examples in the Bhagavad Gita also, very short. But in the Bhagavatam, detailed explanations are there in previous yugas how they practiced. When you go through the details, you will easily understand these other yoga systems are not at all possible in Kali Yuga for most people. So, Bhakti Yoga is, in that respect, very superior to all other yoga systems. And it's been made very easy by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That you simply chant Hare Krishna and hear this transcendental sound of Hare Krishna. And that's where you begin Bhakti Yoga. Very, 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 very simple. Anybody can do it. Just vibrate the tongue and say Hare Krishna. That is practice of Bhakti. And it's the highest practice, most effective, most powerful. And you see the results very, very quickly. So that way Bhakti Yoga is superior. Next question. From where in the Vedic scriptures 4 sampradayas are authorized? Okay. The description of the 4 sampradayas are given specifically in the Srimad Bhagavatam and in other Puranas, Itihasas, and Dharmashastras. There are different categories of Vedic literature. So the most authoritative and comprehensive scriptures among all the varieties of Vedic scriptures are the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. 2 scriptures are particularly most relevant to us in this present age of Kali Yuga, because they are like most comprehensive Vedic literature describing only that which we absolutely require for achieving spiritual perfection. So therefore, you study the Bhagavad Gita, you study the Bhagavatam. In both of them, this 4 sampradayas are described. 4 sampradayas are described. Particularly in the Bhagavatam, Though in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada mentions this. He makes a mention of this in some places. But the details are there in the Bhagavatam. So, and also, not only the scriptures, but also the practitioners and the institutions established by acharyas, past acharyas, authorities, spiritual authorities, who taught by their example, who taught by their writings, who explained, who preached, who established institutions to continue the teaching and the learning and the practices, who established standards, who traveled to different places and established either monasteries or temples or ashrams or schools, patashalas or gurukulas. See, so much work has happened in the past and is still going on. So these are all authorities from where you can learn what is this sampradaya. All the four sampradayas, Vaishnava sampradayas, have their institutions called mats or temples or patshalas or gurukuls. All the four have. So you can approach any of those institutions, you can read the books, you can study the Bhagavatam and understand what are the basic teachings. So all that is available for anyone. Next question. Can a Shiva bhakta follow both Krishna consciousness and Shiva and wear both Tulasi mala and Rudraksha together? The real point to be considered is, why should somebody follow both? There is no necessity. If you understand what is the position of Shiva and what is the position of Krishna. Who is Shiva? Who is Krishna? This understanding is very, very important. So scriptures clearly describe Shiva is a pure devotee of Krishna. And he is among the topmost devotees of Krishna. He is not just a devotee. He is the topmost, among the topmost devotees of Krishna. And Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nobody is equal to Krishna. Nobody is superior to Krishna. Everybody is subordinate to Krishna. So Shiva is not only a pure devotee of Krishna and among the topmost devotees of Krishna, one of the topmost devotees of Krishna. Shiva is also a Devata. Shiva has got many different forms and he's got many different roles and he's got many different functions. Krishna also has many forms. He performs many different functions in different forms. So all this you have to study and understand. Then only you try to follow. It is not merely a choice according to your likes, because this is a very serious thing. It's a very serious business. It cannot be done casually for getting any tangible benefit, real benefit you don't get. If you casually wear some mala or do some meditation or do some puja or do some prayer or visit some temple, you're not going to get any significant understanding or spiritual benefit, you see. So therefore, you properly understand. You read Prabhupada's books, understand who's Shiva, understand who's Krishna, and then you follow. It becomes very obvious what are you supposed to do. See, when somebody is a devotee of Krishna, it doesn't mean such a person completely neglects or forgets or ignores Shiva. That is completely wrong. Because the codes of devotional service given in the devotional literature say that one should learn to respect other living beings properly. That's part of bhakti, part of practice of bhakti. A devotee of Krishna does not even like to harm a single ant. It's the most insignificant creature. So, Shiva should be respected. Even by a devotee of Krishna, Shiva should be respected. And Shiva doesn't just deserve simply some respect like we give to others. No, Shiva deserves special respect, a high degree of respect. Acharya, pure devotee, well-wisher, among the top well-wishers of everyone in this entire creation. So many things. There are a lot of details about Shiva that you should know. And the scriptures, the devotional literature describe how to respect Shiva. And there are instances where somebody did not properly offer respect to Shiva, and somebody even tried to minimize his position, thinking that he is a ordinary person. And what was the consequence of that? In the fourth canto of the Bhagavatam, there's a description of Daksha Yajna. And the way Daksha, a powerful personality in this universe, one of the Prajapatis, powerful controller, he suffered so much of difficulties because of offending Lord Shiva. So it is very, very instructive. Please read all this, and then you will understand it is just enough to practice Krishna consciousness, by which you are able to offer proper respect to Shiva. You're able to please Shiva without any separate endeavor to wear Rudraksha or visit Shiva temple, without any need of that. Simply by practicing Krishna consciousness, you offer due respect to all the living entities, including all the devatas, including all the great personalities, great controllers, everyone and everything. That's the perfect thing about Krishna consciousness. Next question. What is Upasana kanda? And what is the role of demigod worship in Upasana kanda? Okay, there are different ways of classifying the Vedic literatures. In terms of the method of practice of spiritual life, there are three divisions of Vedic literature called Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, and Upasana Kanda. Karma Kanda basically consists of practices called Yajna, Dana, Tapa, which are done for specific material benefits, and most importantly, gross benefits. Karma Kanda. Karma Kanda consists of worshipping some devata, not worshipping devata exactly, performing some sacrifice, yajna, for the sake of earning a lot of wealth, for the sake of getting a beautiful wife or a handsome husband, for the sake of becoming very learned scholar, for the sake of getting name and fame, becoming very popular in the society, for many such different purposes, material benefits, one can follow the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas. And then there is Jnana Kanda, cultivating knowledge, particularly knowledge of what is spirit. And that involves a study of specific Vedic literatures, particularly the Upanishads. And this Jnana Kanda consists of the study and trying to theoretically understand who am I, what is this world, what is this purpose of this creation, What are the details of this material existence? What is spiritual world, etc., etc. So many questions and fundamental things are explained, answered. There is question answers format in the Upanishads, in the Vedanta Sutra, in the different Puranas. So different literatures are available, different practices are there. The practice involves studying, performing austerities in Jnana Kanda, and doing meditation, and having discussions, debates, and like that. So many different recommendations are there, Jnana Kanda. And Upasana Kanda is specifically worship of some particular demigods, including worship of Krishna or Vishnu. This worship is for different purposes. Again, the worship could be for material benefit, the worship could be for getting some mystic powers, the worship could be for the sake of getting impersonal liberation, or the worship could be for the sake of advancing in devotional service and attaining the association of Krishna in his personal abode in the Krishna Loka. So, Upasana Kanda consists of worship of specific personalities for any of, again, these three purposes. Whether it is Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, or Upasana Kanda, the purpose could be different of different people. But Karma Kanda is limited only for material benefits. By Karma Kanda, you cannot get impersonal liberation. By Karma Kanda, you cannot get mystic powers. You cannot get devotional service, not possible, or Krishna's association, devotional progress of advancement, not possible by Karma Kanda practice. Now, this Jnana Kanda is useless when it comes to Bhakti. It only helps to some extent the realization, self-realization of oneself as spirit soul. And it also helps in some kind of material detachment in order to prepare oneself for spiritual elevation to the spiritual platform. But again, both Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda are inadequate for ultimate self-realization. It's only Upasana Kanda, and that also in Upasana Kanda, worship of Krishna, Vishnu, that alone will lead to perfection of our spiritual practices, leading to ultimate liberation. So, Upasana Kanda, in Upasana Kanda, demigod worship is for specific purposes, to attain the planet of the demigods. That is, Yanti Deva Vrata Deva. This is called in the Bhagavad Gita in the 9th chapter. Those who worship the demigods specifically with the intention of promoting oneself to the planet of the demigods. There are demigods who are living in upper planets, and some of the demigods have their own personal planets. So such planets, if somebody wants to go and live with the demigods in their association, then there are specific types of worship of the particular demigod to elevate oneself. That is Upasana. Now you can also worship Krishna in order to attain Krishna's planet, association of Krishna and Krishna's planet. Yanti madhya jino apima, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So that is nothing but Bhakti Yoga only. Worship of Krishna according to the Bhakti literature, according to the recommendations for attaining Krishna's planet or Krishna's association. Those are all actually only Bhakti. These are all part of Bhakti Yoga, or practice of Bhakti. Next question. If one takes birth in this world as a disabled person who's incapable of anything, but still manage to chant, will that person get a chance to do bhakti in next birth? Any little bhakti anybody performs in any extent, in any condition, they will definitely continue their devotional service. If they don't perfect it in this life, they'll continue their devotional service in the next life, and they'll always get a suitable birth for continuing. That is guaranteed. Whereas material activities anybody performs, even if they perform pious activities, there is no guarantee of getting a suitable birth next life by which they can keep making the progress. You see, supposing somebody starts practicing pious activities for elevation to heavenly planet. Now, towards the end of life, they commit some sinful activity or insult a great personality. And the next life, they are not taking birth on the heavenly planet, but they are degrading themselves to become some ordinary human being, or to take birth as a asura, or take birth as an animal, or suffer in hell. So many difficulties are there in these other processes other than bhakti. Bhakti is the only process by which you're guaranteed that you will not degrade yourself in the next life. Because bhakti means you will continue bhakti in your next life, guaranteed. That is the significance of practicing bhakti. So the answer is yes. Next question. How to have a calm and satisfied mind? Mind is always disturbed as long as there are material desires, as long as one is busy trying to enjoy materially. Mind is always disturbed, always agitated. Because the way of enjoying materially or lording over material nature is to agitate the mind. That's the only way you can get any so-called material enjoyment or material lordship. There's no other way. So therefore, to make the mind calm and peaceful and satisfied, you should not endeavor for any material happiness. You should give up this business of material happiness. Material happiness is simply illusory happiness. It is short-lived. It is actually a sensation. It is not real happiness. So become wise. Give up this donkey's business of pursuing material happiness in a human form of life. Become wise. Then what should you pursue? Spiritual happiness. In spiritual happiness, there are two kinds of spiritual happiness. One is the spiritual happiness of simply understanding or realizing I'm spiritual by nature. That alone can give you a type of relief from material suffering, which will seem like a lot of pleasure compared to material types of happiness. This pleasure of realizing one's spiritual nature will give so much relief. It seems like it is a lot of happiness for different kinds. But actually, that is also not real happiness. That's a kind of feeling, that's all. It's not real happiness. Real happiness is devotional happiness. The happiness you get when you engage your senses in Krishna's pure devotional service. That's the only way to experience real happiness, lasting happiness, a permanent happiness, and fully satisfying, along with becoming happy and joyful, and the mind becoming completely calm and peaceful, never to be agitated by some external cause. That's only possible in bhakti. So you practice bhakti yoga nicely. Then you can definitely feel the mind becoming very, very calm and peaceful. as you keep on advancing in Krishna consciousness, the mind becomes purified. Next question. How can a neophyte who is new to a subject or activity gain faith in Prabhupada's words, understand Srimad Bhagavatam? Simply by practicing the chanting of Hare Krishna, simply by associating with devotees, simply by participating in the basic beginning activities of Krishna consciousness. Definitely there is purification of the heart, there is development of this faith, transcendental faith, and consequently whatever you read or whatever you hear will be easily understood, appreciated, and strengthen your faith, make you fixed up and steady in your devotional practices. It is all automatic. You're just doing the devotional activity itself is enough, properly, under proper guidance. That itself is enough. Nothing more need to be done. Next question. Is Goloka mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam? Yes. Krishna's pastimes, which are described in 10th canto, where were they performed? In 3 different places. One is called Vrindavan. This Vrindavan, where Krishna appeared and performed, Krishna performed his childhood pastimes, Vrindavan, Dham, that is actually the Goloka Vrindavana descending, coming down to this material world when Krishna came. So Krishna comes means he comes to this abode. Krishna lives in Goloka Vrindavan. So the description of this Vrindavan in Bhagavatam is a description of the Goloka Vrindavan only. So it is not different. Next question. Why is the system of Yugas set up by the Lord? This is the time factor. System of Yugas means Kala. Kala means the whole material creation, maintenance, destruction is going on according to a cyclical way. That means they rotate. Time rotates. Just like your experience of the seasons. There is now spring is starting, right? Or spring has already started. And then after spring comes summer, it will become hotter, generally in India. And then summer reaches its peak. Then after that, there is rainy season. So rainy season, you get relief from some heat, but after rains have stopped, then the autumn comes in, where it is very pleasant, and there's no need of getting relief by rains. Rains would have stopped, but the weather doesn't get hot like in summer or rainy season. It doesn't get hot, humid. So then autumn, after autumn comes winter. So like that, these seasons rotate. Similarly, creation, maintenance, destruction also rotates. Similarly, on the earth, the 4 yugas keep rotating. There was Satya Yuga, some duration. Then there is Treta Yuga, then Dwapar Yuga, then Kali Yuga. The duration reduces. And sum total of these 4 yugas is some duration that is rotated 1,000 times. Then there is half day of Brahma, like that. So the system is set up by the Lord for the sake of the time factor, which actually regulates this different situations, circumstances for the living entities to try to enjoy in different ways, to try to be happy in this material world, to try to lord over, to get the realization, I don't belong to the material world, I belong to the spiritual world. Nothing to do with all this material body, material time, material karma, material circumstances, material relationship, and nothing to do with this. So for that sake, the Lord is set up in a particular way. And that is happening by the arrangement of the Lord through his energies. Lord doesn't have to personally do anything. Next question. Does Krishna decide who should take his shelter and have a peaceful life? No. Krishna does not decide. You decide. Each living entity decides. Krishna is inviting forever. Everyone, come back to me. Connect with me. Awaken your bhakti for me. It's already there in your heart. You belong to me. I am your topmost well-wisher. I want you to become free from all suffering by following my simple instructions of bhakti. So Krishna gives all these instructions. He gives, he sends his pure devotees. He himself personally comes and preaches and teaches by his example. He speaks Bhagavad Gita. So many things like this Krishna has done. Ultimately, it's up to us. Whether we want, take Krishna's shelter, or we don't want. If you don't want to take Krishna's shelter, okay. Krishna is not going to force you. Next question. How Puranas can be tamasic and rajasic if only Lord Hari is glorified everywhere in the Vedas? Puranas are not tamasic or rajasic. No. Puranas are classified in 3 divisions as those which are most suitable for people who are tamasic nature. 6 Puranas. Then 6 other Puranas for people who are rajasic nature. And 6 more Puranas for people who are of sattvic nature. So all the Puranas are only glorifying Hari, means they are only transcendental literature. But the Puranas meant for people in Tamoguna, it also gives them ways and means by which they can fulfill their tamasic desires. Just like one Purana describes how to offer a goat in sacrifice to Kali. Now that Purana is glorifying Krishna, but also has got these type of sections where people can satisfy their material desires, they can find ways and means of avoiding sin while desiring to enjoy in a particular way, material way, etc. So the classification is not making the Purana as a tamasic literature. No. It's called a tamasic Purana because it's meant for tamasic people. Specifically. In what way specifically meant for tamasic people? That there are recommendations for fulfilling certain desires of the tamasic people. That's all. Finished. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.